Good evening, everyone. Psalm 63 verse 1 says, "You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you with my whole being, who longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water." Sometimes in life we go through periods where we feel spiritually dry and even barren. And perhaps we feel that God isn't answering our prayers and we feel discouraged. We can look back in what we think is better days when we saw God at work. David, the writer of this psalm, I think, is feeling something similar. He's in a dry, hot desert, and he uses that as a picture to reflect what it's like in his own soul in his relationship with his Lord. What I love about this psalm is that David makes a choice. He doesn't need to remain in that place of dryness and feeling unfulfilled. He longs for God and he thirsts for God. And this longing certainly isn't half-hearted. It's with his whole being. His whole life depends on it. As just he cannot live without water, so David cannot live without his God. He needs God in every part of his life. But what is the key that opens the door to being refreshed and filled by God? Verse 2 says, "I have seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and glory." David uses the word sanctuary, and he's thinking about God's presence, the place where God is worshipped, that meeting place with him that we can see in the future in the tabernacle and the temple. So when we meet with God, he reveals more of his power and glory. And today, we meet with God through prayer and reading his word. So let's take time in our day to meet with the Lord, to reflect on his power and glory. He longs for that and delights to hear our prayer. His glory points to the beauty and greatness of God. John Piper, a Christian writer and preacher from America, says, "God is in a class by himself. He has infinite perfections, infinite greatness, and infinite worth." What a privilege it is to spend time getting to know him. And in his word, we see so many examples of God at work through his people, showing his power. In Genesis 1 and 2, God the mighty creator at work as he forms and fills his world. Genesis 28, God met with Jacob in a dream. Exodus chapter 14, God rescues his people from a terrifying army as he makes a path through the Red Sea. God met with them there. 1 Kings 17, God provides for a poor widow and her son through the prophet Elijah. In Daniel chapter 3, God preserves 3 of his people in a furnace of fire. In Matthew 14, Jesus meets Peter walking on water. And in Revelation 21, when we get there to the end of the scriptures, God will fully reveal all his power and glory in a new heaven and a new earth through the Lord Jesus Christ in all his glory, where there will be no more death or suffering or pain. So let's be encouraged to look to God, who satisfies and fills and refreshes the soul, who fills us with himself. Psalm 107 verse 9 says, "For he, that is God, satisfies the longing soul, and the hungry soul he fills with good things." The power of God cannot be limited by our circumstances or our weakness. So let us trust him, that he might show us more of his power and glory in our weakness this week. Good night.